Everyone, welcome back to the Nick and Sanjee podcast, where we go through our tips and tricks on how to grow a YouTube channel as we ourselves go on that journey. How are you today, Nick?
Yeah, pretty good. But I'm curious to see, we've got a guest just behind you.
We do. For those who can hopefully see or who are listening on audio, I've got a cat. It's not my cat, but it's a cat of the house. And he's close to his eating time, but he's assured me he'll maintain a certain level of quiet decorum as he waits. But today, Nick, we are doing episode 13, and we're going to talk about behind the scenes, a day in the life of a YouTube content creator, our journey on that. So, Nick, I'm excited. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, definitely excited. Especially because we're both sort of, on different segments. Like I'm full time, you're part time, so I'm really keen to, hear how you do it, and hopefully, I'll be able to share some good stuff as well.
Absolutely. It's actually quite generous saying I'm part time. I would say I'm very casual. Recently, it's been very casual, but no, I appreciate that. So, all right. Well, that's probably good context as well. Is in terms of my YouTube channel, I am running it in addition to what I do for my full-time work. So I typically do it outside of work hours and on weekends. But Nick, tell us a bit about your journey to, I guess, when you started, now where you are, and how you're currently running full-time.
Yeah, I mean, I started pretty casually, so I'm trying to remember the hours I would have put in, maybe like between 5 and 10 hours a week at the start. And then from there, I kind of tried to stay consistent. Obviously had, less consistent patches, but overall I was probably doing, I was aiming for about 10 to 15 hours a week, I think, when I was doing it on the side with a full-time job. And then this year, launched into full-time at the start of the year, and I've been aiming roughly for 40 hours a week. I've tried to treat it kind of similar hours to a full-time job.
Yep.
I'm still figuring that out, like in terms of, work-life balance and how hard I should push versus how hard I shouldn't push. But loosely, I kind of try to break my week up into like tasks for each day. So the way I'm doing it at the moment, and I'm kind of like still experimenting, like it's changed over the course of this year, but at the moment I try and dedicate Mondays just for scripting. So I try to get at least 2 scripts done on a Monday, and it gives me like lots of time to research as well, which I'm finding is quite important and quite helpful to spend extra time researching, because I used to just, think of something and then write it down and then film it, but now I'm trying to actually research, what video ideas are working out there, some actual backstory or like, content for the video itself. So yeah, try to get 2. It doesn't always happen. And then Tuesdays, I try and shoot my A-roll. So most of my videos are just talking ahead, pretty much. So I'll sit down and again try and record 2. On a really good day, I might get 3 done. But yeah, 1 to 2 at least, because then I'm a little bit ahead. Wednesdays, I try and dedicate to, I just cut up the base of my video for the week, and then shoot B-roll, any B-roll that I might need for that video. And then I'll spend the rest of the day, hopefully, editing. And then Thursdays, pretty much just editing, just trying to finish my video for the week. So at the moment, I'm pretty much just doing videos week by week. Like I'm not really getting ahead in terms of editing videos. Like I film videos ahead of time, so I'll have like 2 A-roll videos filmed, but not so much the editing. And then Friday, depends on how much work I've gotten done in the first 4 days of the week, but it's usually finishing up editing, doing thumbnails, and then trying to get ahead on the following week. So that's roughly my schedule at the moment.
That's quite an impressive schedule that you've broken it down, and it kind of follows the path of YouTube video. And I can totally understand that when Friday is editing and trying to get it up and uploaded and ready, that's always going to be a tension point where you're going to feel under pressure. It's at the end of the week and you have to get something ready and done.
Yeah.
and yeah, that can always be a bit tricky. But you've got the Thursdays there as well. I'm imagining you sort of front load everything as much as you can on the Thursday,
Mm,
and then
pretty
Friday's just
much.
sort of the last little bit.
Yeah. Ideally. Well, I think the part of the
Yeah.
problem is because I leave it to the end of the week, I can always be like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow because I've still got a few days.
Yes.
But so I'm still figuring that out. Like I'm trying to figure out how I can create artificial deadlines to help me
Yep.
really get it done. Because if I can get it done on Thursday, then it would give me so much extra free time on Friday to do
Yep.
other things, to get ahead or develop the business side. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and I think someone did say, it might have been Ali in the early days of learning about editing, the importance of it's good to edit a video on a day, consider it finished, and then come back another day and then do a final look over. Because sometimes if you're editing, and it's like when we used to write essays at school or we used to do anything at school where your brain tends to fill in the gaps in a narrative, or it tends to accept why certain things are there. Whereas if you come back fresh the next day or come back even a few hours later, you'll look at it and you'll think, oh, that bit doesn't make sense, or that bit is unnecessary. I don't need that there. And
Yeah.
I'm much more comfortable cutting it. Yeah.
Totally.
So good. Okay.
So how about for you? Like, what's your weekly schedule look like?
Yeah. High level. It is Monday. So when I was writing it out, I realized, I guess there's two parallel things happening. There's sort of finishing the previous video and starting the new one. But I would typically spend Monday to Friday researching and scripting the video.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go on the journey of a video. So Monday to Friday, researching and scripting the video. And then on Saturday or Sunday, I'll try and record my video. Typically, I'll try and record 1 to 2 videos. And then as soon as I finish recording that video, I'll upload it to my editor. And then between Monday and Friday the following week, I'm spending time with him going backwards and forwards on what we actually want to include in the final edit. And I think we've done previous videos or previous podcast episodes on the workflow, so please feel free to check those out. But yeah, we sort of go backwards and forwards with my editor, and then it tends to be actually the next week, then I would have a video ready, then the thumbnail and everything else is done.
Right.
So that's all done, and it's sort of done after work. So Monday to Friday, it's between 6 and 8 or 6 and 9. And I sort of give time for the transit and coming out of work. What I was going to say was in the past, what I have found is in the past what I've so typically what I found in the past is if I set aside the few hours after work as the time that I'm going to spend on my YouTube channel, I'll not do anything until the last hour of the day almost. So I'd finish work and then maybe do various things, everything except YouTube, until maybe 10 or 11 p.m. So what I've learned now is I'll finish work, and it can vary a bit, but I'll typically then go straight from work to a cafe and then just try and do a solid 1.5, maybe 2 hours. And that time I found is based on my bladder, because sometimes the cafes I go to are not the kind of, I mean, they're great cafes, but they're not the kind of cafes where you can leave your laptop.
Right.
So you pretty much work. Then you have to go to the toilet, and then instead of packing up your laptop to then go to the restrooms and then unpacking and redoing all of that, I'll just be like, okay, that's done. I'm going home now. So when I'm working in Melbourne City, I'll go to a cafe somewhere in the city of Melbourne, which is usually quite easy to find. Typically the more institutional ones I find, because they're the ones that are open beyond 5 p.m. And then if I'm not in the city or not near a city, I'll try and go to a library. So some of the university libraries will typically open beyond 5 p.m. as well. So
Right.
that's usually been my thing. And I'll just try and say I'm just going to do 1.5, 2 hours full on with a 5-minute break every 25 minutes.
Mhm.
And that's usually been my process.
Right. So yeah, I'm just on that. I was just curious to know how much time you spend editing, writing a script all up. So it's just because you mentioned before that you spend the week pretty much writing your script. So if you're doing that every night, like how much time, all up do you spend?
Yeah, so I guess and this is where I was saying I'm doing it in parallel. So the week is spent writing the script, but at the same time I'm also responding to my editor's comments.
Right.
So I would say in the week before a record, maybe I've spent 3 hours writing and preparing the script, and typically I'll have some Notion stuff and I'll also have some PowerPoint stuff. In a lot of my videos, I like to use the diagrams and things like that. So I'll typically try and do all the diagrams and the pictures that I'm going to refer to in a PowerPoint presentation. And then also in Notion, I'll have some dot points on what I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that will probably take 3 hours. And then when I record, that's what I use as the basis for my content.
Right. Okay, interesting. It's probably similar for me, I'd say, roughly. But yeah, it's always interesting to hear how much time people spend on scripting. Another thing I was going to talk about a little bit was like content planning. So like for me, generally I'll sit down on a Monday and try and plan out the next 2 weeks of my long form videos. So I'll try and decide on concepts. Like I've already got a lot of ideas sort of roughly outlined, but then I'll just pick some that I think will work for the next couple of weeks. And they're the ones that I'll turn into scripts. And then for my short form content, I've usually got like a big bank of edited shorts. So currently I've probably got 20, maybe 25 shorts just sitting there. So I just try and schedule them out a week at a time. So that's pretty much how I plan my content. It's not super organized at the moment. It's kind of just like week by week. But yeah, how about for yourself?
Oh, I'm probably a notch worse in a sense. Like it feels like it's not even. It is week by week, but it's kind of there's no real thematics around it. It's just what's in my list.
Yep.
And I'll pick stuff up. And then some days I'll be like, oh, I'm not feeling like I've got the energy to do that level of a video.
Right.
So I'll kind of go through my list and find something a bit easier to do. And similarly, if there's a comment from someone and I'll think, oh, okay, that's an easier video to do in the short term, I'll rather respond to the comment in a way than make a new video.
Yep.
I'll try and do that. I have found if I want to turn around my videos a bit quicker, I probably don't need to do as much of the detailed high-end stuff as I used to. So I do try and turn things around. So I'm currently sitting on like editing through about 4 videos, which I recorded in batch. But I've just, because of my traveling recently, I haven't been able to get them all consistently edited. So I think I've had 2 edited, and I'm just waiting for the other 2 to get finalized.
Right.
So yeah, that's been my process. What I would like to improve is having a bit more of a thematic. So similar to what you said is, planning out the next 2 to 3 weeks and saying, okay, this is what it's going to be. Otherwise, it is very much month by month. Okay, I got that video out. What's the next best thing?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it still feels fairly similar to me. I haven't come across anyone who's necessarily shown me how to do it better, I guess. I mean, you could, I guess, plan it out a month in advance, but then you have to make sure your scripting's all sorted out. I just haven't managed to get that far ahead, but one day. And I guess that comes in when you start to have a team and outsource stuff as well, like you're doing. Like it gives you more space to be able to do that kind of thing. So working towards it. But another thing I was going to mention, just in my week to week kind of tasks, is doing a review. I don't know if you do anything like this, but I started doing it at the start of the year. And I've tried to stay consistent with it, but I feel like it's really underrated to just look back on the previous week and sort of review it. Have a think about it, see kind of what worked, what didn't work. So I try to sit down for 30 to 60 minutes, and I'll kind of break it into 3 different things. So I'll look at how I spent my time. So I track all my time using Clockify. It's just like a web browser based time tracker, and I just break my tasks into that, so I can look back and analyze where I spent most of my time, where I didn't spend much time. And that's been really helpful, like being able to look back and say, okay, I was probably wasting a lot of time here on this task, and I didn't really need to be doing that. It didn't really make a big difference. Next week I need to prioritize, this other task. Like that's really, I think, helps me to prioritize script writing, because I realized looking back that I was spending like hardly any time on script writing and most of my time on editing, which meant I didn't have very good video ideas. Sure, the editing was okay, but like the actual idea was pretty bad. So that was good. And then the second thing is just how my content performs. So I'll try and go back. And I've been really trying to do this more lately, especially with my YouTube shorts, but also my long form content. So I'll go back, look at the shorts that perform the best. Like I'll analyze their retention graph, try and find some key things and elements from that video that worked and what didn't work, and then I'll look at my worst performing. Same thing. I'll try and look at individual elements based on the retention graph, and then same thing with long form content, and also try and analyze the thumbnail and click through rate and see what could be different. And I try and experiment with thumbnails as well. And then the last part of the review is kind of what I already mentioned, just like trying to figure out what I can do better in the week to come. Because I think, I've continually realized, like, even though I'm consistently creating content, I don't think it's going to improve very quickly unless I'm actively being proactive about trying to figure out what's working, what's not working, doing more of what's working, doing less of what's not working. Because otherwise I'm just kind of rinsing and repeating the same thing all the time. So it's something I definitely recommend for anybody who's creating content. Like putting some sort of review system in makes a big difference, I think.
I resonate with that, even though I don't think I do it as well as I should. I definitely don't like to look at the stats on my videos, because it's not, especially recently, I don't think there's been much exciting things to kind of review and comment on. There haven't been great. And also, I don't think I've been getting the views I used to on my newer videos. So it kind of takes time for the quality of the stats to come through. But that's definitely something I need to do more of is looking at the retention and making a note and saying, okay, in this particular video, I'm going to try and do this, and then seeing, does that actually improve retention or make it worse?
Yep.
I'm sure if I did look through my videos, I've been trying little things, but it's hard to know exactly what I did and then, being able to check what it was. So I like that idea of almost saying, okay, in this video, I'm going to try and do a super short intro with my reasoning being it will improve retention.
Yep.
And then maybe later on actually checking, a month after that video's gone out, is that actually what happened? Did that help?
Yeah, exactly. And I find just the regular feedback, regularly looking back and analyzing just helps me to stay on track with the new content that I'm creating. So again, like I'm not just repeating what I always do, but trying to make adjustments just bit by bit over time,
Yep.
I
like the idea of tracking your time, because I use Focus myself. So the app is actually called Focus, and it's basically a 25-minute timer. So I think it's the Pomodoro kind of thing, 25-minute timer, and then it says done. Here's a 5-minute break, and then go again. And then I think you do it a couple of times, and then you get a 20-minute break.
Yep.
But I don't go back and check how much time each week. I just kind of know I spend about 3 hours on scripts, and then maybe 3 hours on editing feedback with my editor. But I think that would be interesting. So what's that app called that you use?
Just use Clockify, so you can just enter your own projects, which I just put as different daily tasks that I do, and then just as I start a new task, I'll just click start for that particular task. It's quite good, and it gives you like a detailed like bar chart or whatever it's called, like graph.
Yep.
For you can look at it over the course of a week or a month or whatever. And I find that quite useful. Like especially in the first sort of few months of the year, I think I thought I was prioritizing certain things that were important, but yeah, looking back, it was just the data was there. I can see I was just probably wasting time on stuff I didn't need to be prioritizing. So it just really helped me to refocus, make sure I'm, working on what actually makes a difference.
Awesome. Oh, I like it. Link in the description below. Hopefully, we'll put that in.
Yeah.
Clockify. I'll give
Yep.
that a go.
Yep. So then I think I was just going to talk a bit about like the kind of the pros and cons of full time, and keen to hear your thoughts on the pros and cons of part time. For me, the big upsides, big pros of being full time is get to work to my own schedule relatively. Like I still have to make sure I'm consistent, but I do like the fact that, in the mornings particularly, I've really been trying to be more consistent with the gym. And so if on a given day, like I wake up a little bit later or something, I don't have to rush out the door to get to work. I can just prioritize my gym time and then go to the gym, get that done, come back, and then just work a little bit later, which I couldn't really do, if I was working a regular 9 to 5. So that's really good. And then of course, the flexibility, being able to adjust my schedule to like catch up with people, or even just to have a day off, like for a birthday or whatever it is. I really like that. That's really good. So and then the last thing was just being able to build something that's my own. Like, I've always enjoyed business and creating my own thing. So there's a kind of 3 big upsides, and then a couple of downsides. One is like in the day-to-day, socially, I find it definitely a lot more lonely. Like I miss working in an office where you can just chat to people, chat to your coworkers, bounce ideas around, even I heard someone on a podcast recently talk about how they missed the drama of their workplace a bit. And I was like, I kind of relate, like as much as the drama sucked at times, in my previous jobs, it adds some excitement to your life. Whereas there's not a lot of drama really. Like the biggest drama for me is, sponsors that, want you to make huge videos for free and stuff. Like, but apart from that, it's kind of a bit boring at times and socially more lonely. And then it also requires a lot of self-motivation, which I'm finding like day to day, because you can get up, and again, because you don't have, an employer breathing down your neck telling you to do stuff. It's it can be tempting to just sit in the PlayStation and play games for a few hours, but I find that takes up a lot of mental energy to motivate myself. So it's definitely a bit of a downside. But yeah, how about for you?
Yeah, I'll go through some of my things, but I think it'd be good to reflect on each of ours as well. And so for me, I definitely also struggle with the motivation, because I think after a full day's work, it can be hard to then, switch off, go to a cafe, and then do this other thing. But I think that can actually work in either way. So sometimes there are days when work has been intense, like my full-time job has been intense, but that then gives me the motivation to do my own thing a bit more. I agree that, what we're doing is building our own thing in various ways, and it's something that we can point to and say this is our own, in the long term. So we should be able to find that extra gear to do it on some of those days. And when you have a bad experience at your full-time job, that should be the kind of thing that encourages you to try to go and build your own thing as well, while still working at your full-time job. So I've never been in a situation, though, where I've not liked my job. I think it's just been like, this other thing is more exciting for me. Is probably how, because I know we have to be careful. Like when we've seen other YouTubers talk about it, they're like, oh, I hated the grind, I hated this and I hated that. And I don't think you and I are anything like that. We're just like, we felt we could do more and we can do something different. But yeah, I don't think that's where I'm I'm at. So I like the job, but I like also building this other thing.
Yeah.
I agree. I think I don't get as much of the loneliness of the YouTube, but it also means you don't have the accountability for it. So I think similar to what you're saying around the motivation and accountability, like it's so easy for me to go a couple of weeks without doing anything for YouTube,
Right.
and nothing is really felt, like other than a few
Right.
people saying, "Oh, how's the channel going?" and me saying, "Oh, I haven't done anything. I've been busy,"
Yep.
and that's it. And the reality is most people don't care. They don't care in either way. They don't care if you're uploading consistently, and they don't care if you're not uploading.
Yeah.
It's really nothing for them in either direction. It's a conversation point.
Yep.
We're the ones who will lose out if we don't do it.
Yep.
So that's been something. The community fact, I think it's good that you and I have each other. And we've gone through seasons where we've probably talked a lot about YouTube, and then seasons where we haven't really talked about YouTube to each other. But we're probably getting back into the season more of talking more about it. And then we've also got David, obviously, but we probably don't chat to him as much on the stuff. But yeah, I think community would definitely help a lot, even just to share the ups and downs and have some form of accountability. Totally. So when I was part of that Ali Abdal's PTYA community groups and all the training programs, the community and the accountability programs I found were the most powerful, because they were the ones where I was really like motivated to make videos because of what everyone else was doing it. We had time set aside at certain times of the day when everyone would log into a Zoom call and do the work. All those things were very handy. And also in those settings, you could upload a video and people would give you feedback, which I thought was quite good. Yeah. So it's just that additional layer to your self-critical feedback is having that someone else just come and have a look at it and say, you could have. It's typically people just saying you should have cut this out, you should have cut that out.
So yeah, in summary, there's just a couple of things that I thought I'd mention if you are thinking about getting started full time, like creating content on YouTube. So I think the big things I've found, what's worked for me, is just to experiment to see what works best. Because like I said, my weekly schedule has like changed quite a bit throughout the year. Like each month almost I've had kind of a slightly different schedule. I've tried to optimize and find what works. So don't be afraid to experiment. I've also found pacing myself is a big one. The start of the year I burnt out a little bit, pushed it a bit hard. So I'm trying to pace myself. I'm still figuring out, how hard I do need to work versus, not burning out. So I think pacing yourself to a pace that's sustainable for you is important. And then try to treat it with the same mentality that you would with a full-time job. So that's kind of how I try to think about it, rather than thinking, this is just a thing that I'm doing for myself, like it's whatever. I try and think of it, this is my job. I never had any problems being motivated to get up and go to work in my full-time employed job. So I'll just try and think about it the same way. Like if I don't work today, I'm not going to get paid. So try and just carry over that same mentality, and I find that helps carry some of the self-motivation as well. So yeah. How about you, Sanjee?
That's
Have any final thoughts on part-timers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you also, it's similar. Even though you're part-time, I think you do have to also have some level of accountability to yourself to say, just because I'm doing it part-time, that's no excuse to not being consistent. That's an excuse I've used a lot. So I really need to cut back on that, because it only hurts me, I guess. And I think it helps if you know that long-term you do want to do this thing long-term rather than your full-time job. So again, like I said, nothing wrong with my full-time job, but I think, let's say over the next 10 years, I would like to maybe be doing a lot more content creation than my full-time job. All right, well, cool. Thank you, Nick. Thanks for sharing on your journey around being the full-time content creator, and then from my point of view around part-time and a bit of a day in the life for us and our schedules. So where can people find more about you on the internet?
nickkendall.com.au on YouTube, Nick Kendall. And then I just started a new newsletter, actually, trying to help people to improve the production quality of their video. So feel free to subscribe to that. It's on my website. I'm trying to do fortnightly emails. So yeah,
Great.
that's where people can find me. How about for you?
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm Sanjee Sen on YouTube, Sanjee Sen on Instagram. Oh, I think actually, no, I'm Sanjee_investing on Instagram. And then sanjeesen.com on the internet in terms of my website. So thanks everyone for listening. I'll chat to you soon. Bye for now.
See you soon. Bye for now.